Our next candidate standing Glenfaba and Peel is Ray Harmer, and it's going to be interesting for you. I mean, 1 minute there's hardly anyone standing, then there's a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
You've got a track record, and people have seen that. It's been a bumpy one in places, I think, but what makes you want to come back for more?
Well, I think we've done a lot of good things, but I think a lot still remains to be done. So we're seeing sort of progress in health in our Western Wellbeing Centre. We're seeing the East Quay development happening. We've got the Heritage Trail. We've got social policy. We've had the Equality Act. We've had Domestic Abuse Act. In the last year, I've been responsible for legislation. We've had over 30 bills come through, but there's a lot of things that now need to make happen. For example, finally getting that sewage plant in Peel. So that's really important.
How big a thing has that been? That's dragged on. I mean, forever. I mean, you must have stood on that, I think, on your last time around.
It is, and it has been frustrating, the progress that has been made, or lack of progress. Although I have to say, we have got the financial, the money's there that finally wasn't. There, yeah. We've got the Raggett leachate that will be included into the treatment plan, and it's going ahead, all with a fair wind early next year.
So having in the last Parliament having two ministers, has that been the detriment of Peel, though? Do you think?
No, because for me, constituency work is the most important. So everything, it's almost like a stick of rock. Everything I do, I work on behalf of constituents. I if you like, lobby within the departments. When I'm speaking in council ministers, I'm always in my mind is.
You mean you've got extra clout? Is that what I'm reading here?
Yeah, absolutely, to get things done. So when there was money, when there was issues around the medical centre extension, and the budget came through at Comyn, I was there to lobby for it, and also for the Western Wellbeing Partnership, because these are not just good for Peel and Glenfaba, but also good for the whole of the island. They're really issues both national and local. So for me, it does give you an extra edge. But whatever I do and wherever I go, it's the constituents that have to take priority. And so, whatever role I take in the future as well. So
let's talk about what's happening on the doorstep then. Let's do local issues here. I mean, you've named that, obviously the major ones, but any of the other traction that you're getting, or you're telling them?
No, I mean, I'm hearing a lot. A lot of people, around COVID that said to me that, we now need to move on. We need to, take that next step. Obviously, there's another local issue which is around Michael Street. A lot of people keen to see work happening on that. Doctors and health wanting to see, more resources put into that, and obviously making sure that we keep ahead of our road repairs and those kind of issues.
You mentioned the promo. I know it's outside Peel, but you did start with that whole thing going.
Yeah, and now...
Are you to blame for it, or to take the credit for it?
Absolutely. We had to make that bold decision, and you can now see it's complete. We're now seeing it now finalised, and it's going to be there for the next 18, 90 years. So, it's the foundation.
So national issues that you'd like to look at for the next term. What you got eyes on anything particular?
Yeah. So obviously, economy is a big one for me in terms of actually some of those issues that we've learnt. We've learnt a lot through COVID about how we need to retrain and have flexible workforces that can be able to change how technology changes and how new things come about. Virtual working has become a really, really important issue. So that's really on, and some green issues, some really quite exciting developments in terms of blue carbon. That's the way we deal with carbon in our seas. So that's very important. We need to strike very quickly on our trade deals with, for example, Japan, Australia, in terms of financial services.
You mean the UK has to?
No, we can create our own sort of part of those deals, our own sort of to make sure that finance is included. Right. So the economy is really important,
because you've got to pay for all these great projects. Of course, I mean, you cost everything up when you put these ideas in.
Exactly, and you also have to really be really hard on some of the finance issues. I mean, a number of tough calls, for example, I had to make on the baggage handlers, that when that was outsourced, that saved £1 million. It's all of those small decisions, but it has to be paid by a thriving economy. So the economy has to be a really critical issue. I mean, we were faced this time last year with a prediction of 5,000 unemployed. Now, fortunately, we've kept it below 500, which is great. But we can't sit on our laurels. We have to move forward.
So inside Comyn, were you patting Howard and Co on the back, or was you getting your your thoughts in there if they were different?
Yeah, absolutely, because I'm one of the drivers, because one of the things that I'm involved in is the Economic Recovery Group. So that's really where, with the Treasury Minister and the Enterprise Minister, we could really drive things through, because we actually had the power. We didn't have to revert to Coleman for our decision making, which made it significantly better. And I think that's a model that should be used elsewhere.
But do you agree on the whole thing about unified, announcements coming from Coleman meetings, regardless of what went on behind the scenes? You had to then keep with the message, whatever that message might have been.
I'm slightly different on that. I think sometimes it's good to have a little bit of to see where some of the thinking is.
Did that constrain you, in other words?
Of course it did. I mean, very much there were certain things which you don't agree with whatsoever. So that is difficult, but that is part of, I suppose, what we do. But I, personally feel that some sort of colour in that sort of debate is a good thing, as well as the economy. The health transformation is really important. I know there's massive issues with the data. We don't do data properly. The systems don't talk to each other. So there's work around that and making sure that we get proper integrated care, that the social and health work together better. And then we've got, obviously, affordable housing, which is a really key issue at the moment with house prices. So we need to work a lot more around...
You've got a plan, though? I mean, everyone keeps talking about these house prices, but no one's got an actual answer. If they did, it can't be that easy, can it, to find that?
It's really difficult, and this is why it's almost like some things we've started and I want to see a conclusion. Yeah. So a couple of examples. The Eastern Area Plan I was really keen on, because that was developing brownfield sites. Second, we've set up a development corporation, which I'm a member of the steering group, and what we're doing there is we're trying to develop some of those government derelict sites and make them available for housing, and some of that key worker housing. Two of the projects that I was involved in that I really want to see developed is the mid-rent scheme that we developed down south, that we can have island-wide. We looked at Derby at putting some sort of low-cost housing, and I would like to see that. But there's some really practical measures. For example, we can provide guaranteed deposits for first-time buyers, so people don't have to worry about gaining deposits. So those things that have started, some things haven't finished, and that's really why I'm sort of really keen to see.
Some may say that pushes the price of houses up even more, though, once you start doing those sort of schemes. But
there's an element, if you don't address the supply issue, is the absolutely thing.
Supply and demand.
Absolutely. If you get the supply right and you regenerate some of those brownfield and those urban where there's been decay, and for example, we're still knocking on doors with regard to the census, and there's 4,000 that haven't returned their
4,000.
So, but some of those may be derelict properties. So
it's a worry if you can't find 4,000 people, isn't it?
Well, no, this is normal process.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah. So normally, it literally, because not everybody replies, but there are, and we're actually ahead of where we were 5 years ago. But this is the bit where you say, look, you need to return.
How much of what you tried to do in the 5 years? How much did you manage? Percentage-wise, and how much is still to go? I mean, how do you do in other words?
Yeah, I think we're probably about 60% there, but there's a good chunk of 40%, because it's very difficult, particularly with COVID. Because I have to be blunt, the last 2 years all been spent about keeping people safe. And keeping the economy going.
Where do you want to be next time around? Because you had this great job, well, I say great job, deal. Well, it's a poison chalice, a lot of people say, but then you sort of, doing the other things, and I don't know. What do you want to be leading from the front? Have you got any ideas where you want to be?
I really like the role I've got at the moment. I think you can really shape policies.
I know, get it quite right. What's the title?
Policy
and reform. Yeah.
So we're doing some really important work in the governance in terms of the public sector about improving, empowering people. So, for example, having teams that start and finish, rather than, if you like, just continuing the monotony, but actually say, and what we're seeing through that is we're seeing less sickness, more empowerment, and better outcomes.
And silos, are they still there? Are you working on those? Is that part? If you got it back?
That's part of the 40%. The silos is a big issue. I think the Economic Recovery Group is a really good template to take these through.
To finish with, who would you want to see leading the team? Would you want to put yourself forward, for instance?
There's absolutely no way I'll be putting myself forward.
Okay. Who do you want?
But it will be Alf Cannon, in my view.
Right, very positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's because finance-wise.
Finance, but more than that, he provides really good challenge into the council ministers, into the officers. You know, it will be a leadership, I believe, and I think he's, to me, he's really proven himself over the last 5 years.